Can I ask you something a little unexpected? When you imagine moving abroad, changing your life, your different transitions or routines, I should say, when you let yourself really go there in your mind, even just for a second, what is it you're actually picturing? Is it the place, the cobblestone streets, the markets, the language floating around you like music, the coffee that actually tastes like something delicious? The slower pace, the longer lunches, the sense that life is being lived instead of managed? Or is it something harder to name than that? Because when I moved to France, and I thought about this a lot since I told myself it was about obviously the new chapter in my life, the experience, and building something new with my then partner in a place neither of us had even ever called home. And all of that was true. But underneath all of it, underneath the logistics and the excitement and the terrifying leap of faith, there was something else driving me, and really something I didn't have words for it yet. I was truly leaving for myself. Not from something, not running away, leaving toward a version of me I could feel existing somewhere just out of reach, a version that the life I'd be living, the corporate job, the stress, the toxic environment, the daily performance of being just okay, had slowly, quietly, methodically buried. And France didn't give her to me, but France gave her room to breathe, and that made all the difference. I want to share about something that doesn't get enough airtime when women talk about leaving their careers or even their relationships. We talk about burnout, we talk about the long hours and the bad bosses and the glass ceilings and the pay gaps. All of that is real and all of that truly matters. But what I want to talk about today is something quieter than that. Something that happens so gradually you don't notice it until one day you catch a glimpse of yourself in a mirror and think, when did I get so serious? When did I get so small? The corporate environment I was in at that time was a bit toxic, to say the least. Not dramatically toxic, not in a way that made headlines or gave me a clean story to tell. It was toxic in a way that so many workplaces are toxic for women. A leadership style that kept me second guessing myself, a culture that rewarded performance and punished vulnerability, a daily environment where I had to be on all the time in a very specific and very narrow way. And I'm good and was good at performing. I want to be very serious about that. I showed up, I delivered, and I talked the corporate talk, and I really just attempted to weasel myself in a place that I just didn't feel like I belonged anymore. But inside I was exhausted in a way that sleep couldn't fix. I was anxious in a way that weekends couldn't touch. I had lost access to the parts of myself that were light. They were playful, that could be silly and goofy and fully present without one eye always on how I was being perceived. I didn't realize how much I had contracted until I started to really expand again. And that expansion didn't happen overnight. It didn't happen the moment the plane landed in France. It was slow. It was a layer by layer unraveling that happened over months, like peeling back something that had been wrapped too tight for too long. But it happened. And that's what I want you to hear today. The version of you that your current environment is suppressing, she's not gone. She's waiting. She's incredibly patient, and she will come back the moment you give her a different environment to exist in. What parts of yourself have you stopped expressing because your current environment doesn't have room for them? When did you last feel fully, freely, unapologetically yourself? There's been a lot of moments where I really felt like I was coming back to myself. And to be frank, it wasn't like grand moments per se. It wasn't standing on a top of a mountain or watching a sunset over the scene or having some profound realization in a cathedral. It was honestly the times where I was just myself and my then partner and I were just being relaxed. Like I was just able to be me, to have the silly voices that I always do, to make silly comments, and just doing stupid things. Something that would have meant nothing to anyone watching, but I remember just laughing and being myself and just being authentically me. Like embarrassingly goofy. And right in the middle of that time, something really stopped me. Not in a sad way, in almost a shocked way. And there was another time too that made me think about the time where I was with other individuals that I met fairly new. And again, my then partner and I were going at near the river, and I remember we were laughing because we were playing some type of charades, and I just could not stop laughing. And I just realized in that moment, like I had really forgotten that I was this person, like being free, not having to worry about the next day. I'd forgotten that I was someone who could be light like this, who could play, who could be ridiculous and present and completely unbothered by how she looked or what she was supposed to be doing or whether she was being professional enough or serious enough or together enough. Like, I remember when I was at my position for almost 5 years, 6 years, I want to say, and I just felt like kind of uptight, like not being able to be myself, not being able to crack jokes. And part of it too was the culture, right? Leaders make the culture. And the corporate world just taken my, like, it just, I would say it didn't take my laugh per se, but it had taken my access to it. And standing in those moments in France and being completely absurd with the person that I loved at that time, and also just again being in spaces that you could just be completely goofy and play games, like that's where I'm like, wow, this is me. And I want to share something to every woman listening right now, whether you have a partner, whether you're on your own, whether you're somewhere in between and figuring it all out. That lightness, the goofiness, the version of you that can be fully present and fully free and fully herself without performing anything for anyone, she is the whole point. Not the version of you that hits the targets, not the version that manages the inbox and keeps it all together and shows up and delivers. Those versions obviously matter, but they are not the whole of you. And when they start to feel like all of you, that's when you know something needs to change. There's something that happens when when a woman is placed in a completely new environment, a new culture, a new language, a new way that people move through the world and relate to each other and understand what a good life looks like. It's like truly being handed a new pair of eyes. Because suddenly, the way you've always done things is not the only way. The way you've always thought about work, about rest, about relationships, about what a successful day looks like, none of it is fixed anymore. All of it becomes a choice. And when everything becomes a choice, you get to choose differently. And I remember many times in France, and even when I was in Italy for a little bit, I watched people take 2-hour lunches without any guilt. I watched them protect their evenings like they were sacred. Right after the 5 o'clock hit, there were just so many bars that had a lot of happy hours and people drinking their wine and beer. And I watched a culture that did not define its people by their productivity. And something in me that had been clenched for years just honestly released. It was like being reborn with different eyes, and those eyes couldn't unsee what they'd seen. If you woke up tomorrow in a completely new place where nobody knew your history, nobody knew your job title, nobody knew your reputation or your new role or your role in general, who would you be? What would you do first? What would you finally let yourself try? I will say moving abroad is not a cure. It's not a magic reset button. It does not fix what is broken inside you. And if you go looking for it to do that, it will disappoint you. What it does, what it did for me is create the conditions for healing that my old life simply couldn't provide. Because healing from a toxic work environment, from years of stress and just the stress of performing and shrinking, that kind of healing requires space. It requires a lot of time on your hands. It requires quiet. It requires an environment that is not constantly reactivating the wound. And I could not find that space while I was still inside the thing that had hurt me. The unraveling happened slowly. There were days in France where I was anxious for no reason I could name. Like, I was just a bit, just like, what am I doing? And there were other days where I felt guilty for not being as productive enough, and I didn't do all the necessary things I said that I was going to do. And like, I also felt guilty, like, just enjoying myself without really earning it first. And that's what a toxic environment does. It doesn't just exhaust you while you're in it. It rewires the way you relate to yourself long after you've left. But layer by layer, month by month by month, it unwound. The mornings got lighter, the guilt got quieter. The version of me that had been running on cortisol and performance anxiety for years started to remember what it felt like to just honestly just be. And I was building or rebuilding, or I was discovering, really. I was building a home. I was building a partnership. And that's going to be a whole nother chapter of episodes, by the way. Got a lot of things to unravel there. I was creating like a daily life that felt like it belonged to me, and of course then my then partner, and a routine that I had chosen on purpose rather than inherited by default. That combination, just being able to, and thank goodness at that time, like I had the ability and just the support to allow myself to kind of unwind, but it also kind of did a little bit disservice. But again, we can get into that in another episode. It's honestly one of the most powerful things that anyone can do and experience, is having that space and that time to just really heal yourself and to relax. And it would not have been possible if I had stayed at that position, because it was really tearing me down little by little. My confidence lacked. It was pretty ugly. And I want to say this to you wherever you are in your journey, whether you have a partner or you're doing this solo, whether you're maybe in between, whether you're healing from a job or relationship or just years of living in a way that wasn't yours, you're allowed to want both the healing and the adventure, the rest and the reinvention, the love and the freedom. Those things are not in opposition. In the right environment, they feed each other. My question to you is, what are you still carrying from your current environment that you know deep down you cannot heal while you're still inside it? What would it feel like to finally put it down? I want to leave you with this. You're not the same woman you were 10 years ago. That I think we can all agree on. You're not even the same woman you were last year. You have been changing, evolving, growing, outgrowing, whether you gave yourself permission to or not. And I do remember when I had a moment many times, and I was talking to one of my really good friends, and I just felt really defeated with just everything that was going on with me personally. And again, I'll go into these other episodes, and I just told him, I was like, I feel like I'm starting over. And he said to me, you're not starting over. You're actually evolving. And at times you need to let things decay because they no longer serve you for your highest good. And you feel that inside. Right? So And someone inside you, there is a version of yourself that has been waiting very patiently for the life around her to catch up. So, moving abroad or even just seriously considering it is not about running away from who you are. No, it's about running toward who you've always had the potential to be. It's about handing yourself a new environment, a new set of eyes, a new canvas, and seeing what you paint when nobody is watching from your past and nothing is expected, and you finally have room. And that woman who I was, and that was able to be silly in the French apartment, to be silly with new individuals that I met, she was always there. She just needed space. And so do you. Whether you have a partner waiting to take this leap with you, or you're standing at the edge of this completely alone, or you're somewhere in the middle still figuring out who you even are before you decide where you want to go, this episode is for you. You're not too late, you're not too old, you're not too far gone or too responsible or too deeply rooted to change direction. You are just a woman who hasn't had the right environment yet. And that is the most fixable thing in the world. This was episode 6. Thank you for driving with me today. We'll see you in the next commute.